Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the ESG monthly webinar series, Customer Success Unlocked. My name is Peter Armaly, and I just want to say we think of our webinar series as a vital part of our strategy for educating the market about customer success challenges and opportunities, and we're very grateful for you joining us today. At ESG, we focus our energy on helping companies figure out how to build, operationalize, and transform their customer success organizations. Through our strategies, processes, and people, we help CS organizations strengthen their relationship to their customer community, improve their metrics, and accomplish their ultimate goals for reducing churn, increasing retention, and improving authentic advocacy. The topic of today's webinar is CS the next frontier of AI? And before I introduce our guest today, I just need to inform you of a few small details about the webinar. It's being recorded, as you know, and that recording will be available usually within the next 24 hours to all registrants. We're going to have a conversation for roughly 45 to 50 minutes, and we'll try to leave the remainder of the hour to respond to audience questions. So those questions, please submit them in the Q&A tab. And anything that comes to your mind during the webinar as it comes up through the conversation, please enter them there. We'd be happy to kind of entertain them at the end. But also, I may take the opportunity, if I see a question that's really pertinent to the thread of the conversation we're having, then I might pull that in at any moment. So thank you for logging questions. We enjoy audience engagement, so feel free to let everyone know in the chat where you're logging in from the world and any other thing that's relevant to the conversation. So thank you for your attendance and participation. So let's get going. Our guest today is Joel Passen, who's the founder of Sturdy, which is an intelligence solution designed to help teams listen, take action, and ultimately improve products and customer relationships. Joel has a rich history as a sales executive for a number of companies, and in addition to leading Sturdy, he acts as an advisor to quite a few startup companies in the world of SaaS, and we're honored to have him on today's show. Joel, welcome. We're really happy to have you here. Would you like to say a few words about yourself to maybe better prime the audience for the conversation?
Well, absolutely. And thank you, Peter. And thanks to the ESG team who I've gotten to know over the last year now. So I appreciate being here, and I've seen a couple of these. But about me, just Peter described my background. I've been a revenue leader in 3 startups that I've created and another that I worked for via a VC firm. And I do advise a couple of SaaS companies. I've invested in a couple of SaaS companies as well. So for me, I actually come at sort of, I think a lot of our audience is CS focused. I actually come at it as an operator and come at the topic as an operator. So some of my opinions and maybe experiences are a little bit different from somebody that's been in deep in the trenches as a CS leader. So I'm excited to share my perspectives. And again, thanks for having me.
Well, you're welcome. So let's start, Joel, with a baseline understanding of what we want to talk about. First, I don't think we need to talk about explicit AI tools like ChatGPT. It's all over the media. People are probably getting their fill of it and playing with it too, which is great. I mean, even I have played with it. A lot of fun. And we'll likely have a real application for customer success, but we'd rather focus on how artificial intelligence capabilities, regardless of the tool or the vendor, promises to accelerate the true purpose of customer success. And that is the purpose of customer success as what I call perpetual motion machine fueled by data, and acting as the agent of change for customers and for the products and services offered in the market by the vendor. So being a perpetual motion machine sounds kind of cool, but also impossible. And it is, unless it has the right enabling technology. We are stating here that AI is that tech. Question for you then, Joel. In that context, as an agent of change, how would you describe AI's potential impact for customer success organizations?
Yeah, well, the first thing that I want to say before maybe I lobby or at least lob an answer in here is that I want to bring the audience real, tangible facts, or at least my opinions, and not have the pie in the sky, like these big esoteric thoughts about AI. I want to dispel some of the myths that I've learned through my last couple of years working with AI at an AI company. So the first thing that I would say is I do think it's making demonstrable inroads specifically into CS. And at a high level, and remember, I'm going to break this down, but at a high level, I think it's about delivering more personalized experiences and product experiences across the customer or the customer's journey, their life cycle, from the time that we know that they're interested, they're a hand raiser, to the time that we're talking to them about renewal. I think there are applications for AI. And I think that as we break this down, if we really want rubber meets the road, like where is this stuff hitting in our businesses? I think the first part is really around AI or ML data wrangling. And what I mean by that is that there is so much data about our customers that we don't know yet, or we're not doing anything with. And I think this is an area where AI and machine learning can really lean in and help us sort of keep climbing the maturity curve, Peter. So if you think about structured and unstructured data that your customers are generating, whether it's usage data, whether it's just baseline emails that are going to associates in different inboxes, AI is really good at deciphering the insights from that stuff and wrangling that data out of those silos. And that's a really practical application. The two more that I kind of thought about prior was the ability to analyze data at scale without any kind of bias. So it's not the he said, she said, it's, you know, very literal translations of customer information into information that allows us to look through the windshield and not always look through the rear view mirror, like basic telemetry based reports, like how many times is a customer contact us in the last 90 days. Some of that stuff's really valuable, but it's always sort of looking in arrears. And I think that AI and machine learning can synthesize and sift through data faster than a human can. So if you think about it that way, and more accurately without bias. And then I think the third thing is, and this is for me really core, because we talk about customer success in building these long-term relationships, but we're also fundamentally, I think when we talk about that, we have to bring in maintaining product market fit is a really, really, really important factor and in the relationships that we have with our customers. So having more insights about how our customers are using the products, what their wants and needs are around the products. I think AI and machine learning are already making inroads there to influence CS.
That's cool. So, if I was going to synthesize that down to kind of a quick kind of soundbite, is AI really, the promise of AI really going to address the need for speed and objectivity? You kind of touched on those things. So, I've been a customer success manager long ago, but I've managed teams, directed organizations. I understand the role extremely well. So a lot of the stuff that you describe is what a human does. And so maybe there's an argument out there that says, why do we need AI to do that then? I mean, is it just about cost, or is it more about speed and objectivity?
Well, I think it goes back to your opening for this topic. It's like perpetual motion machine, right? I mean, I think it's speed and scale. So I think the two big S's, especially in SaaS, right? So think about this. Through the research that we've done at Sturdy, and I think we published this on our website, I should know this, right? But if you go to sturdy.ai and in our resources page, we have a lot of these stats. But a company receives almost 12 times more emails than they do tickets from your customers. And if you think about it, Peter, this is just real world example. All of the people that interact with your customers, typically there's 7 to 9 people that are interacting with your customers in a mid-enterprise to enterprise account. Finance people, program manager, an ERM, a CSM, an AM, maybe the salespeople, maybe an executive. And if you think of all the silos that are created then with those communications, sending a human to go and extract insights from all of those different threads of communications, it's a super costly. It's almost nearly impossible because the data is unstructured. So I think that's a practical application where AI, sitting on top of all of those silos, can aggregate the data into one pane of glass, but then also provide objective insights as to what the customer is actually telling the business. And so, yeah, it's speed and scale. And that's what AI is going to give us. And the other thing that I would say is, like, some people, and I think we should talk about this early.
Yeah.
But there's this creepiness to AI. And, I say this casually, right? But it is kind of like there's some creepy stuff, right? Like, it's listening to us. Sometimes people will attribute AI, like my wife recently was looking at like spring break options, and all of a sudden, her Instagram feed or something was full of places in Central Oregon. Yeah, right. It's creepy. And people are like, oh, it's AI, it's creepy. And what we're talking about in practical applications with CS is more or less actually helping you do your job better. And I know, like, a lot of executives say that, like, augmented intelligence, but really it is the junk that we don't want to do, like logging a bug report to Jira manually. Let me just be frank, that sucks. And it's very much busy work, when indeed what we should be doing with our CS folks, our staff members, our teammates, is helping them free up their time from that minutia so they could build value for the customer. At the end of the day, it's all about value. So is entering that Jira ticket into the ticket into bug ticket into Jira, is that important? Yeah. But would I rather have a machine do that and have my CSMs on the front line talking to customers and building value? I'd rather have the latter.
I agree. About 5 years ago, I went to a seminar in Toronto, where I am, and it was put on by a tech company, but they had their guest speaker was Jeffrey Hinton, who is known as the father of AI, and he spoke and he talked all about, it was really deep, all about neural networks, and I had to kind of really focus to make sure I understood what he was talking about, and it was terrific. But essentially, that's kind of what he's talking about, is doing all that minutia that everyone complains about anyways, and why not exploit such an enabling tool to help us out. I think is kind of the way my takeaway from that was, from his talk, was this could be really great for we can use the business term productivity, but as an individual person, it would relieve me of the tedium of getting stuff together that I really want to focus on, that I need to focus on the customer value, as you said.
Yeah, I think the other thing, so where I really think, if you just said, okay, soundbite, where do you think AI is going to make, where are these inroads? So first of all, I do think that, per the topic of our discussion today, I personally see a lot of activity around decision sciences making their way into CS, into post-sale side of the house. Yeah. I think it can be stated then, again, that it's less about, it's more about optimizing our workforce and our teammates and their time in the delivery of value to their customers, rather than replacing them. So do I think that AI is going to reduce headcount significantly in a lot of the businesses that, Peter, ESG and Sturdy serve? Probably not. Is it going to make people, is it going to give them better data with which to make decisions about how they engage their customers and when? Yes. Is it going to help product owners have a better idea of how to maintain product market fit and prioritize roadmap based on true customer interactions? That's where I think the inroads, that is coming to life today.
Okay. Sorry about the barking. I've got a dog here. So let me move on to another question.
I thought it was some sort of timer or something.
So in the Customer Intelligence Index 2023 that your company recently published, here's a quote. Sturdy has reviewed over 20 million customer conversations, and one of the most interesting patterns we found is that when a customer sends an inbound email, ticket, or chat in the 90 days before renewal, they are 3 times more likely to renew. Now that's fascinating statistic to see, and it would be exciting as a customer success leader to know that. Besides the obvious conclusion we can draw from the pattern, the customer being alive 90 days before the renewal should be seen as a good thing. What are a few ways that companies can leverage that knowledge about customer engagement activities so close to renewal? I'm thinking of any implications, not just for CS, but sales and marketing, but also product. Do you have thoughts about how other organizations could improve their deliverables based on the kind of very specific customer intelligence data that's directed mostly at customer success?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I would say, here's what I've realized, and maybe our audience can commiserate with this. It'd be interesting to see if people could put it in the chat. But I feel like every time, so I'm going to take a step back as a commercial leader for a $50 million startup. Every time I wanted to know something about our customers, how they're interacting with the product, what features should we prioritize, how they're feeling about our service levels, I didn't have a lot of faith in NPS and CSAT surveys, and that's just my personal belief. I'm not going to go and trash surveys and open that can of worms in maybe this webinar. I do think there's a benefit for them, by the way, or there is a place for them. But every time we wanted data about our customers, we basically went to the CS leader. We're like, hey, we want you to do this and capture this and put it into this Google sheet or enter it into this database, or hey, do you have a report on that? And they would go run around and scurry because they are CS, for most of us, is the clearinghouse for all things customer data. but yet we don't equip CS with the operational tools and systems and resources to actually serve that need. So this is where I think AI can really make a huge inroad into helping build this, what I call, Peter, a collective reality for everybody whose North Star is to delight customers. Because frankly, that's what we do here. Like, if you're on the product team, if you're on the sales team, if you're on the CS team, if you're on the account management team, anybody that's building or selling product or servicing customers needs a collective reality of what the customers really need by cohort segmentation. And I think you guys, I think I sat through, by the way, I sat through a live seminar in DC with you guys talking about segmentation. And I sat there thinking, yes, if we can segment, then we can get data out. So I'm sure you guys breathe this stuff too, and have lots of information about it.
Yeah, that what you had to sit through was by Sheik, our friend Sheik.
Yeah, Sheik and Jordan, and they did it. Actually, it was 90 minutes. It was actually an interesting 90 minutes on customer segmentation. It was kind of surprising.
That's the feedback we got. It was like a terrific.
It was good. I think you guys have a recording of it, by the way.
We do, and we're very proud of that work, and we actually promote it as part of our service offerings.
Cool.
So another question in the book, I've read Power and Prediction: The Disruptive Economics of Artificial Intelligence. One area of research the authors explore is the exploitation, I should say, of disruptive technologies like AI, that they often require resource deployment that creates conflict if there are divergent beliefs regarding the efficacy of a new technology, meaning doubt. That means we shouldn't be surprised when we see it can be difficult to introduce and drive adoption of a new technology. And sometimes it's because of skepticism, sometimes it's because of fear. So let's consider the question about AI being a friend or foe. We kind of touched on that a little bit, Joel, but what strategies can you recommend for CS leaders who want to introduce AI into their business functions, processes? We're talking about kind of deep in the processes, kind of hidden, just driving efficiencies more than anything, I would say, but are concerned about the effect on staff morale or on the potential introduction of too much disruption and what that might mean for their own ability to be successful as leaders, and also how leading the charge for AI-driven change might affect their career. Okay, that was a long question, but I hope you captured all that.
Okay, I have to synthesize that one. I think I'm going to answer this in two ways, and I want to restate something that I said from earlier on in the webinar. Sure. In the chat here is my stance. My personal belief is that AI is not here to replace; it's here to augment or assist. So it helps us focus on things that are higher value that people can do. Let robots do the menial tasks, the forwarding of emails, the collection of data, the data joining, and all the stuff that we would have formerly had business analysts do, right? Mm-hmm. The second part of my question, or your question and my answer rather, is I think that people need to, the way that I talk about, so we at Sturdy, we sell an AI forward analysis of unstructured data like tickets, specifically email. Email is such a treasure trove of insights. And the way that I talk to leaders about it is I don't talk about it being like, oh, you got to buy this AI. I focus on the outputs. And then the other thing that I focus on are what resources you need to make it successful. So AI is not this first of all, in the practical applications that we're talking about for CS, it's not some evil, creepy tool. We talked about that. It's really, and quite frankly, most of these tools don't require a whole lot of resources to deploy. And that's part of the nuance and the exciting part of it is that we can apply these things right away. So I don't really care if it's AI or ML or NLP or deep learning. It doesn't really make any difference. Is it solving a problem? And I think that's what we have to get the forest through the trees as leaders and say, hey, does this actually scratch the edge? Oh, they use some AI. That's great. What resources are required of me is the question that we should be asking. Do we have to clean up data? Do we have to do the segmentation? Do we have to do all this stuff? If yes, then yeah, that's a consideration in your purchase. But otherwise, it's an understanding of great, what are the outputs? How do you make the sausage? And what are the requirements for us to be able to use this and receive value?
Yeah. Yeah, that just makes me think about in the ESG model of working with clients, we have teams that actually run the programs and help the client build the application and build up the structure of their CS organization. When I get brought in, it's really more around to consult around change management and communications. And I think this is, I know this is where my question was going, and you kind of addressed, is that it's a challenge, I think, for CS leaders. And I see AI as just being another kind of layering on of opportunities for business, but also another challenge for business leaders to up-level their own skill around how to drive change and be able to kind of position things accurately, but optimistically and practically. And I think you touched on the practical piece. So go ahead, Joel.
I was going to say, sometimes, if I get in front of folks and I'm describing our solution, but let's just take the sturdy out of it and think about it as AI or intelligence, right? Let's just focus on the intelligence part. I think the way, if I were a CS leader today, and to some extent I am, I think about just the resources we have at our disposal to do our jobs better, to get more insights, to scale, especially like our friends that are running at scale programs like the one-to-manys and that sort of thing. So if I had a grease board behind me, and I don't, in my lovely decorated office that is not, think about it as a layer, like a cake, a 3-layered cake. And on the bottom layer, the fundamental layer, the foundational layer, are our systems of record, typically our CRM, Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever you're using, and the tooling that your people use to communicate with customers, email, chat, tickets, Zoom calls, whatever it is. That's the foundational layer. A lot of us today have another layer, a system of engagement or system of action, where maybe we're using some of the same tools from the system of record. But think about CSPs, the churn zeros, the gain sites, the Tatangos of the world, or what have you, catalysts. Where I see AI playing is in the middle layer. It's the system of intelligence. So what it's doing is it's sitting over the system of record, it's sitting all over the silos of the communications. It's interpreting and routing and data merging and that sort of thing. And it's pushing information back and forth and sort of the connective tissue between the systems of engagement and systems of record. And so if you're thinking about it as a CS leader, like where does AI fit in my strategy? Like, I don't even know where I want to put, do I need more tooling? Do I need more people? I think the answer is whatever's right for your business is right for your business. However, if you want to get more intelligent, there is a layer that is now available to people. It doesn't have to be sturdy. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and commercially viable stuff. But it's a system of intelligence layer that I think a lot of us are missing. And typically those are driven by AI and machine learning and natural language processing and that sort of thing.
Okay, so that layer. So, I mean, an obvious question for me anyways, but maybe the audience is also thinking about this, is that some of those tools you mentioned, Tatango and Client Success and Catalyst and Gainsight, are now putting in AI into their platforms. Does that, I think the answer is going to be no, but I want to give you an opportunity to make a pitch about why Sturdy, but other kind of vendors or technologies in that layer still would be really relevant.
I think so the first thing I would say is that I'm really glad to see that the customer success platforms are starting to pay attention to AI. I've often thought that the customer success platform space is now sort of a features arms race, if you will. And so AI is sort of that next frontier of the features arms race for that particular space, right? And I think that some of it is going to be just like any other space. It's no knock on any of the vendors and our friends, Peter, at all. But it's how deep can you go with this stuff as a CSP vendor when you have all of this massive product, whether it's onboarding and reporting and customer journey management and all this stuff. It's really hard to go deep on AI when you have all of this other code base to maintain. And that's really, I think, driven the market towards these systems of intelligence tools. So yes, the CSPs will do some things, and some of them are trying and some of them are making headway. Saw an announcement recently, and some of them are really doing stuff. Churn Zero announced some things around content creation. I think that independent vendors, system of intelligence vendors, customer intelligence vendors are probably doing more substantive things that will help the CSPs in
Okay.
terms of feeding them insights so you can take customers down the most desired journey, for example. But that's really where I think the industry is going, and I think it'll be more independent. And AI is kind of complicated stuff as a vendor, to build and train and maintain.
Yeah.
And to take once unstructured data and turn it into structured data so an AI can get smarter.
Yeah.
And I think that independent vendors are probably going to be more successful in penetrating the customer in broader market than existing tooling. And we saw that with Salesforce and like Einstein. Einstein's came out kind of with a buzz, and that's Salesforce, one of the largest SaaS companies in the world, and the adoption rates are really, really low.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. Even if you put it in the context of business history, the specialization is required for a fairly long period of time before something else kind of like subsumes it. Let's pivot to a really kind of practical question. Are there specific and common workflows in customer success that are performed by most teams and you feel could be optimized or even replaced by AI?
I think we've already seen it to a certain extent. Like some of these I think where AI made its entrance into the post-sales world, let's just say, and to answer your question very specifically, is like first line chat support.
Okay.
Like bots have gotten pretty good. Like if you're saying, hey, I want to listen, even on phone calls, like guided phone calls, and the solutions that are really good at coaching, Observe AI is pretty good at this at call centers and some others. But it's that first line support and decision support for our associates. It reduces onboarding time and increases customer satisfaction. It's already in play. And I think that's like that kind of set the table for data management and activity reporting is sort of the next thing. I already see this in play. And you see it across sales and already. So it's a mature technology in sales. And it's now starting to come to the post-sales world and the CS world. I think that reporting and dashboard building, like I said, I'm really interested in like looking through the glass, through the windshield. And as a leader, I don't want to always have to look in the rearview mirror, get 17 people in a room, look at it like a health score, which I always think is sort of backward looking in many ways. Like it's not necessarily as forward looking as I've ever wanted it. Like we had a big thing, Peter, and I won't go on a total tangent here, but the thing that I used to stomp my fit, beat my fists and stomp my feet about how do we go? I'm not a yeller, by the way. I'm actually try to be pretty politically correct with staff and not people feel intimidated. But internally, maybe I'm yelling, how do we go from green to gone? How do I sit in a meeting and I'm there 1 week, and then 2 weeks later or whatever, we come back and do an account review, and one of my accounts, let's say in my top 20% of my accounts from a revenue perspective, how does that account go from green to gone in 2 weeks, or green to red? Like, how come we didn't pass yellow? That's when we know we're failing, right? So I think that this data management and activity reporting is, done by AI across the entire customer communication and interactions is what I call them, across that entire lexicon, right? That's what I think AI does really, really well. And then I also think that meeting preparation. How many times have we worked with staff? Like you have, if you're still doing MBRs or QBRs, good on you. I hope you're doing them in a better way than they've done in the past. That's another type, tangent, and probably a sensitive spot for me because I don't like attending them and I don't like giving them in the format that we're used to. But when we have our one-off touch bases or connects or syncs with our customers, I also think that AI plumbing our data to better understand what the customer is really doing from a usage level, what are they saying from an email and ticket level, and aggregating into that one view. AI is already doing that for a lot of companies so that we have better meetings. We're better prepared for contentious conversations, for example. We're better prepared for real conversations with our customers, and we're really listening to them better. Those are the practical applications. So first line chat support, I think data management, report and dashboard building and monitoring, and meeting preparation are the areas that rubber meets the road that we're going to see common workflows influenced by AI.
Yeah, and with a lot of these kind of evolutions in tech, in business world, and I don't mean to demean management people because I am and have been forever, but it's always that last leg where they need to get on board and make sure the change is adopted and driven and adhered to. And so they have to get super comfortable with talking about it, I think. So their weekly meetings, their one-on-ones, they need to kind of figure out how these productivity tools like AI is helping business, and making that connection between the effort of a CSM to help customers and the overall kind of goals of the business unit and the company. So that's always been a challenge for leadership, and I think AI will accentuate that. I think so.
I think the other thing is there's two types of these solutions that are out there. There's sort of what I call the roll your own solutions. So they're saying it's kind of like a framework. We're like, hey, we have the ability to create this decision support for you, but you have to put all this work and input into it. And you really have to buy into it. And it involves this change management. And that's a bigger decision for CS leaders. Do I really want to go down that road? Because I'm going to plow a lot of time, energy, and money into deploying something. And by the way, that can work. I think what we're seeing in the market today, which I really like, is more off the shelf things that are quick to value. The return on investment is immediate. We can see it. And it doesn't require a lot of resources that we don't have as CS leaders. Like how many of us, this is another hot topic, and I hate to bring up all the hot buttons for everybody, but it's like customer success operations, right? Every time I go and take a CRO job or create a company, about my third sales hire is a rev ops person.
Okay.
But we don't scale at the same level on the customer success side. If we go back to what we talked about before, and I think there was even something in the chat or a comment, like someone said, amen. Customer success is the clearinghouse for data to create the collective reality for the rest of the organization. But yet we have the fewest resources. We apply. I've done it. I've been guilty as charged, Peter.
Yeah.
I have not given CS in my orgs all the time the resources that they need to be that clearinghouse and to be that operational business unit to create the collective reality. I think when you the AI products that are out today are being shaped and built by people that understand that there's probably not a lot of resources to deploy them. So you got to build product that can show quick time to value without resources. So I think we'll see more of that. So roll your own, or hey, is this something I can deploy without a resources? Those are things that I think people should think about.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is people shouldn't worry about their jobs. I mean, there's lots of work that needs to be done going forward on this.
I think we're beyond that. I mean, AI is any of this technology, whether it's the first, it's cloud and just the scale that it's given us in collecting the data and storing the data and having it. But I think of AI, like I'd rather think of it like decision sciences. Like this stuff is here to help us use data to create knowledge, and that knowledge to create better decisions and journeys for our customers so that they can find value. It's not here to say that I'm going to take my 10 net new CSMs minus attrition, and I'm only going to hire 6 this year because I'm deploying AI. I don't think that's realistic. And I don't think it's realistic anytime soon.
Yeah, good. So I hold a radical belief that AI is what is going to be the thing that finally tears down the walls separating organizations in a company. I feel we're in the early days of significant change for how companies organize people and work, and it's going to be artificial intelligence that forces that change. So here's my question. A lot of data has been collected about customers over decades by sales, marketing, customer support, services, customer success. CRMs were invented. You mentioned this, and marketed to solve the challenge of taking that data, creating a 360-degree view of the customer. Everyone knows this. They mostly failed to live up to that advanced billing for a number of well-known reasons that boil down to humans and parochial decision-making, in my opinion. In that light, would you agree that AI possesses the transformation quality that's been missing, and that will resolve the situation in the process, finally enable true and transparent data and process flow that follows the customer journey and not the journey of a company's organizations?
Well, the short answer is yes. So I share your opinion. But I think this comes back to a term that I really like. And I think the people at Gong use this term. So I'm annexing it and borrowing it and agreeing with them. I'm not going to tell you that I invented it. But this collective reality. So if you think about it, and I think there was some Q&A and some comments, I'm not watching it as closely as I'm sure Kate and your team are at ESG, but we're not on this island together. Meaning, CS, I think there's too many companies and organizations that they create CS organizations. They say you're in charge of the customer, and that is a failure And I think starting to kind of work itself out of SaaS as we climb the maturity curve, because SaaS is kind of an old business, subscription businesses
It is.
kind of getting long in the tooth, right? Like
Yeah.
we're starting to get more and more mature. So I do think that I think that AI is a means to an end. I think that it's really good at collecting and sifting and merging and joining data from all of these disparate groups: sales, customer support, customer success, product operations. And I think that that's where the promise of these solutions are going to lie, in joining all of this data together so that we create a collective reality and we better understand how to deliver value to our customers through these insights. That is available today. You can do that today. I think now it's a matter of people starting to think about their own. I'm gonna kind of touch the risque here, but you have to, like, instead of just throwing another log on the fire and saying, how many net new logos do we expect against our gross churn? Oh, I'm going to hire 6 new CSMs this year. I think one of the things that CS leaders might want to consider is, how am I going to think about operations and tooling and data management so that we can create this collective reality and pull together all of these teams? Because at the end of the day, companies do 2 things. They build software and they sell software. And that includes servicing customers. So there isn't like this group's in charge of this particular thing with the customer and they own the entire customer satisfaction. That, I think that's BS.
Yeah, me too.
Companies can't operate like that anymore. The entire company needs to be climbing the same hill. So the way that we think about it at companies that I've run from a revenue side is NDR, net dollar retention. Everybody's talking about it. And I was talking about it years ago. It is our North Star. Product needs to focus on it. Customer success needs to focus on it. Sales needs to think about it. And they need to be aware of what they're selling and that the value proposition that they're selling can actually be delivered. And once you get everybody in this collective reality, I think you can really scale and get things on a flywheel, or what you talked about, perpetual motion machine. So that's my long-winded answer.
Yeah. What about skills, Joel? If you're going to advise customer success managers, how should they be thinking about improving their own skills to better ready themselves for a new kind of world?
I'll tell you, I think it's even before skills. I think when you're looking at a customer success job, if there are, individual contributors or ICs that are listening to this, if I were an IC, and sometimes I like to get close to this topic, but I think I would start to figure out what my particular skills are in terms of specialization. Am I a better person at launching a customer? Am I a better person at maintaining the relationship? Do I have some sort of skills where maybe I'm not quite like a enterprise salesperson carrying a $1.5 million quota, but I'm very good at helping people understand how to leverage our product and buy more modules or increase usage? So if I were an IC, Peter, and a little bit different answer than maybe you would expect, it's not about where I would upskill. And I do have an answer to that. It'd be like, how do I plug myself into this organization? And am I going to be successful based on what skills I already bring to the table in my general philosophy? Or am I going to be asked to do everything? Because no one's good at everything. Sorry. I think the other thing that I would do, and I've often said this about recruiters, by the way, I've hired hundreds of recruiters in my life. I had a business prior to my SaaS experience, a subscription-based BPO. And I would tell recruiters, like, I wrote a bunch of stuff about this, like them being MacGyvers. You have to be really resourceful. You have to be technically resourceful. You can't just say, oh, I'm not techie, I'm better at relationships. That doesn't work anymore. We're in technical businesses, right? So I think that people, if you think about, I think that you have to be, I think the number one thing that I look for when we hire people, and the number one piece of advice that I would give people earlier in their career, is that you have to have a hunger and an intellectual curiosity to absorb information, because ultimately that translates into value when you're talking to business leaders that you're serving and trying to provide value to.
Okay. I just want to grab a question that Linda asked. And I think what she's asking, is a very simple question. Are both CS and sales paying attention to the AI input? You kind of touched on this a little earlier, that sales, you're talking about chat bots and stuff like that. In your experience and in the way you're out in the market talking to people all the time, how advanced is sales thinking about this?
No, they're already look at Clary, and there's a whole handful of these solutions out there. I mean, to a certain extent, Chorus and Gong bring this to life, but I think sales is ahead of post sales in terms of technical sophistication, resource allocation,
budget.
operation, and budget.
Yeah.
And by the way, this begs this is probably another topic, and probably something you've already explored, Peter. But if you want, so as a CS leader, if you want nice things, you carry a revenue number.
Yep.
That's why sales get nice things.
Yep.
Because somebody has ascribed, and it's not just, it's leadership. They've ascribed a revenue number to that person, and then they get resources to hit that revenue number. And so as CS leaders, I think, I did a panel talk at a conference, and they're like, how do we get a seat at the table? And I didn't want to, act like it was trivializing it, but yeah, you carry a revenue number, you get in the revenue business, and you get nice things. The other thing that I would say to Linda is, I have a really specific example here, and this is not an infomercial for Sturdy, but one of the things that we built, because there's a lot of it going on, is we built a detector, an AI, a language model, that detects when sales has overpromised during the sales process, and that has now come home to roost in post sales, and the customer is dissatisfied. So it's using AI to cross the chasm and create the collective reality to say, hey, sellers, you people are saying this stuff, but we don't actually do that. Therefore, this relationship that we're supposed to monetize for a long time is messed up. And it started here. It's not because of our service delivery. And frankly, it's not necessarily because of a product deficiency. It's because somebody has said something to the customer that's inaccurate during the sales process that now created this baggage that we're forever carrying on the post-sale side of the ball. I think that's a practical application where AI can, to Linda's question, merge the two, where AI and CS are drinking from the same cup. So we get that out of our systems.
That's great. That's actually, he put it in the chat, but it's a question. My old friend, Mark, who used to work with me at Eloqua 10 years ago, or so, he says, he's talking about, you talked about early on in the conversation about data, and he says, isn't it incumbent upon a CS leader to get into place instrumentation for the data? What's going on in the customer base, the tools for execution. Essentially, does that all have to happen first, I guess, is how he's asking that, before you can actually exploit AI?
I think that the fundamental thing, here's what I would say. The fundamental thing that you have to have in place is a customer database of record. And my advice is that you have at least some simple segmentation done. And that is, I think those are the base level requirements for starting to deploy an AI solution. I think what we're missing, a lot of us, and if we really boil it down, is that AI, I think the thesis of my answers to your questions in this webinar is AI is very good, and it's because it's a computer at analyzing large sets of data to create insights that impact an outcome.
Right. And
to that end, I think we've already got these data collection mechanisms in our company, like Zendesk or Freshdesk or ServiceNow, whatever you're using for ticketing is a database with structured information in it that can be analyzed right out of the box. Email, it's kind of a frontier that has not been analyzed yet. But the amount of email that we collect, the back and forth and interactions between our customers, we already have it. Outlook and Gmail save it all.
I just read the other day that it's still the #1 channel for communication.
Oh, by far. We find that it's 2x. I mean, if you get 100 tickets a week, which is low, you're going to get about 300 emails a week.
Right. I think I actually read it in your.
It might have been, but we've done a lot of work. I mean, we're trying to figure out what are the major channels of interactions with customers. Of course, usage data and some stuff that's already been really well done by a lot of our peer vendors. But email is like the black hole. It's like the dirty secret. Like, by the way, finance email. like understanding the insights from finance email. I'm not talking about like reading their emails back and forth to their, spouse or partner about coming home late and the pot roast isn't done. I'm talking about reading specific customer emails or analyzing them for signals of importance. So to your friend's question, like, actually, I don't really think so. I don't think you need to build all this tooling and infrastructure. You're already collecting all of this stuff in commercial databases and silos already. Now it's just a matter of applying something to it that can aggregate it, normalize it, and start to analyze it so you can get insights quickly. And that's the way that I look at it. And that stuff's out there. It doesn't have to be a sturdy thing. There are other companies doing it that do it really well with a lot of success.
Yeah, and I think maybe AI will give companies the opportunity to kind of rationalize some of this stuff, because you're right, it's out there. Most companies have hired a lot of, anyways, companies of a certain size have hired probably a small army of people that do data analytics and reporting, and they're all kind of not talking to each other either. So there's probably an opportunity there to kind of rationalize and getting people to work together using AI as kind of the engine for that.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I've seen. The companies, so we have, I have a specific contact, or I guess client, that has they call it their defensive GRR project. And on the committee, the people that are helping further this project around renewal rates, gross renewal rates, right? And doing it defensively. It's called the DGRR project, right? Totally weird alphabet soup. but there are product people, there are data scientist people or data analyst people from all over the company that are on this team. And they all have benefits from getting this data in their hands. Like the product people can better understand if the customers are growing with them or growing away from them, right? The marketing people have a really good understanding if the customers like this stuff. So they're harvesting references for advocacy programs out of it. So they're at the table. Mm-hmm. Salespeople are at the table to better understand how they sell value to the customers based on the renewal rates. Like customers that renew obviously are receiving value. How did we sell them? Or what was that journey like? They take that data back to sales. And of course, the post-sales teams, the ERMs, the enterprise relationship managers and CSMs and AMs, they better understand what insights and how to better interact with their customers, not just launching, the superfluous, obligatory email. It's been 90 days since we sent them an email about something. Yeah. So we're going to send them an email about something. That's not relevant anymore. Like everybody can see through that. So
in fact, it's embarrassing.
It's childish. It's not on the maturity curve where we need to be, where all of us are in SaaS. So I think comes back to this collective reality. Like we're all in the business of building software and selling software, whether you're in customer success or sales on the latter note. So these programs using data, turning it into knowledge so that every team can use it. If I have a summary point, and I know we're getting close, but if I have a summary point for the webinar, it's don't be afraid of AI. It's not here to take your job. Really what you're doing is you're taking this raw resource, which is data that you have already, and turning it into knowledge so you can make better decisions about how to deal with your customers so they renew and you drive NDR, which is, again, I think most of our North Star.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I see AI as kind of another step in the kind of steady drumbeat and forward motion of our societies. There's really no way to stop it. I mean, we can look to governments, or a lot of people are concerned about AI, and they look to governments to think about regulations. And I think it's way early for all that kind of stuff. But I think there's legitimate concerns that some people are studying and trying to figure out how to address. But the bottom line for me is that it's not going to go back, right? AI is here. It's going to be in our lives, in our businesses. And I think I view it, again, because I'm an optimist, as a partner. If I'm in business, I see it as an enabling partner to do better business, more business, better business through my teams. And I think that allows me as a leader to have good conversations, I think, with the people who might report to me, who I need to collaborate with in sales and marketing and support and services, to get everyone kind of on the same page about the potential benefits of doing work better, I would say.
Totally. And I think we have to remember, for a lot of us, I would imagine this audience, there's a lot of B2B subscription or technology enabled subscription people in the community that we're in. Specifically, like, listen, do I advocate for AI to sell more nicotine products to underage children?
Right.
Of course not. Like, no, what we're talking about is using some form of advanced technology to further our ability to make better decisions based on the data that we're already collecting faster at scale. That's what we're talking about. So I do think that, that, again, sort of in some of these summary notes as we round up, I think, this is just another tool. This is another arrow in the quiver, right? Like, this is pretty inevitable. So
yeah, it is. I just want to, before we have an opportunity, or we'll give you an opportunity to kind of close, I want to say to Linda. Linda, thank you. Great session. Yes, we will share contact info when my colleague Kate will send out a follow-up on LinkedIn to all the registrants, but also just post about it, and we'll include contact info there. Jeffrey, thank you. I agree with your sentiment. You say we can't ignore it, AI. However, there are others who will take advantage. That's true, right? So you just need to be smart about all this stuff. Finally, Joel, you answered this question. I don't want to ask it again because I'll give you a chance to do another answer. If you had one wish that you were granted, it had to do with this customer success community that you're a part of, what would it be around AI? You talked about revenue, basically assuming revenue, I think.
I guess my one wish for people to take away from this is to dispel the fear that AI is here to do your brain work. AI is here to do that tiring, mundane, minutia-driven stuff that you're carving out budget to do already. And so, frankly, it's just like the cloud. And this is really similar, Peter. I remember I'm of the age that when people are like, is it in the cloud? Meaning you have all my data? And people would be like, no, the cloud is bad. I mean, I'm that old. And you'd have to fight. I was selling a SaaS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was selling a SaaS product back when it used to be the install base only crowd. And I was trying to get people to cross the chasm to join the cloud and put their data in the cloud. Right? I honestly feel, and now I'm older, significantly older, 15 to 20 years older now. But I feel the same inertia. Yeah. I feel the same sort of mechanics with getting people to adopt. Listen, it's not just AI, it's data sciences to do our job better. Don't be scared. It's actually into a lot of, there's some folks kind of probably that would raise an eyebrow at this, but yeah, there's always things that are going to be creepy. There are always going to be things that are going to be nefarious. But I think as business leaders, part of our job is to cut through that and to see if there's actually real value in something that isn't a challenge ethically or morally. And I don't think we're talking about that in this community. So my wish is that people think about it as something that can advance them and their teams' understanding of their customers to drive value. And I think that future is the system of intelligence that sits between some of the tooling that we already have, but provides advanced outputs.
Yeah, I mean, because ultimately the reason we're in our roles is to help the customers, and so a tool that can help us do that faster and more accurately, and hopefully more predictively, should be very welcomed, I think. So, Joel, ESG really appreciate you joining this call. I think it was a great session. I really appreciated your engagement and your enthusiasm about the topic, and I know you made the point that it's not just about Sturdy. I'm really interested in watching your company and you go forward. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of companies going after this space, and I think because there's a lot of opportunity there for change. And I think we should be keeping our eye on that, and not just keeping our eye on it, but welcoming it and figuring out how we can, let's use the word, exploit it.
I think that's fair. I mean, it's here to exploit. I mean, data science is an advancement of technology is for us to take and like I said, it's about serving our customers better. Like, how do we get better insights to serve our customers? That's what we're here to do. So, and I'll echo that on a close here, Peter. I know my team and I have met and met quite a few ESG folks in your community and yourself, and sat through a lot of your sessions, and we read a lot of your content. And we look to you guys as leaders at that. So and putting out things that are substantive and meaty. So I'm honored that you chose me to be on one of your podcast sessions here. So thank you, and let's stay friends.
Well, of course. Thanks for the really kind words. And I'm going to make a plug for something that Kate posted for me yesterday. I wrote my latest piece, and it's just out of character. I acted like I'm a director directing an actor on stage. So if people want to check out a kind of a funny piece, it's about customer success, but it's got a good message, but it's really more fun to read than my typical kind of stuff. So
I like the typical kind of stuff because I get knowledge from it, but
okay,
I'll check that out.
Good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. You have a great day, Joel. And everyone in the audience, thank you very much for attending, and stay tuned. Look for messages about our next monthly webinar in February. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.